This week's Global Travel Update presented by Rosetta Stone, helping you speak freely worldwide.
Love that graphic. Hi, everybody. Happy Labor Day weekend. Peter Greenberg here with our Global Travel Update this week, coming to you live from the Observation Lounge on board the Silversea Silver Origin. We're anchored off the coast of Santa Cruz Island in the Pacific, right off the Galapagos in Ecuador. A great place to be if I want to avoid traffic for the Labor Day weekend. So let's talk about that first before we get to everybody's questions. First and foremost, 17 million people traveling between yesterday and the 4th of September. That's just by air. It's going to be a very busy day today. The TSA estimates 2.86 million people will be screened. That's not a record. That record was set actually on July 7th with more than 3 million people screened. And while they're saying this could be one of the busiest weekends of the year, it also signals something else I want to share with you. And that is, guess what? Airfares are about to plummet. Demand is about to cut back as we get ready for the last 3 months of 2024 in a national election year where Americans historically tend to travel less. It's not a red issue or blue issue. It's an election uncertainty issue every 4 years, no matter who's running. And there's another reason behind the cut in demand, which, by the way, will benefit you if you want to travel. And that is everybody got their credit card bills this month. Rampant spending put on credit card bills that are averaging 25% interest. Only 51%, I've said this before, only 51% of Americans actually pay their credit card bills in full every month, which means at 25% interest, the other 49% are playing a game of catch up they can't win. These bills are excessive. Consumer credit right now, that's unsecured consumer credit card credit, is, guess what? $1.3 trillion. And that interest is being compounded hourly. So I failed math in high school, but I can do some basic arithmetic. Not a good picture if you haven't paid your bills in full. Now, if you have paid your bills in full and you've been a good person, guess what? You're about to see a huge buyer's market. Airlines have too much capacity right now, too many flights, too many empty seats. And those airfares start plummeting as of the 5th of September. And with the exception of the Thanksgiving period, they will stay down for the rest of this year, not just domestically, but internationally as well. And we're talking 40 to 50% drops on all fare classes, domestically and internationally. So get ready for that. Also get ready for some tough days in terms of the bottom line for airlines. The fourth quarter is usually not a big financial hit for them, meaning in a positive way. It's a negative hit. And some airlines are already in negative figures, one of which is Spirit. If you're a low fare airline and all the other airlines are lowering their fares, then you're all low fare airlines and you can't compete on fare. Spirit has already furloughed 240 pilots. They've delayed or deferred delivery on all their new aircraft deliveries. Frontier is in trouble as well. We're going to see what's going to happen. Even JetBlue is cutting back on capacity. They just pulled back 7 flights just on the New York to Washington, D.C. route. So watch this space. If you're smart and strategic, it becomes a buyer's market for you. If you're an airline executive, the Wall Street analysts are not going to be happy with you for the next 3 months, and neither are you. They overplayed their hand. There's too much capacity out there, and you're going to see fares dropping, not just in the domestic market, but overseas as well. Okay, a couple of other things to talk about. I'm in the Galapagos, as you know. What a great place to be for the simple reason that since 1959, the national parks here, that's when they were established, have imposed strict rules on arrivals and growth, and they managed to maintain those rules. This is a wonderfully preserved area. I'm on a cruise ship, I said the Silversea Silver Origin, but everybody has to play by the rules. Not a single cruise ship is allowed in this region with more than 100 passengers. No group is allowed on shore that exceeds 16 people, and they have to have a naturalist with them. This is not about going to the beach and picnicking or having a sunbathing opportunity. You are treading lightly on a habitat that has been remarkably well preserved. And in the last 5 days that we're here filming one of my specials for PBS, I mean, we're coming up close and personal with every sea lion, sea turtle, penguins, that's right, penguins, and other wildlife that you can imagine. And it's been a truly remarkable experience of preservation. And being able to do that in a world that's increasingly challenged by over-tourism is actually a remarkable feat indeed. So know that if you come down here, there's zero tolerance for deviation from the rules. I'll give you another example. When we dock tomorrow, actually we won't dock, we'll anchor tomorrow on the island of San Cristobal, all the garbage that's been basically created on this ship for the last week will be barged off the ship, but then flown out of the Galapagos Islands. Nothing in and nothing out. That's the interesting thing. Nothing's remaining. That's what maintains the purity of where we are right now. All right, moving right along. A lot of other things to talk about other than airfares. Southwest Airlines. Remember we reported a couple of weeks ago that they were redoing their boarding process for the first time in the history of the airline, trying to generate additional revenue by selling premium seats in the front of the plane. They're now, and they also said at the same time when they announced that, we're never going to touch our policy about not charging you for checked bags. That's going to stay in place. Really? Well, we understand through good sources that they've been conducting focus groups. That's usually not a good sign. Focus groups to ask folks if they'd be willing to pay for checked bags. Who's willing to pay for checked bags? What kind of focus group is that? Stop it. You're either going to change your policy or you're going to do the smart thing. And when you branded your entire airline around the idea that you're not going to nickel and dime us, don't start doing it. Don't start doing it. And that reminds me, we talk about airlines like Spirit and Frontier trying to compete now. They can't compete on fares, so they're trying to compete on perks. Well, how do you do that? Well, Spirit Airlines offering a sort of a poor man's first class for an increased price. Frontier Airlines saying for a little extra money, they're going to block the middle seat next to you so nobody sits next to you. Well, that sounds great, but let's remember something. Anybody remember Laker Airways, Freddie Laker's airline? When he instituted a first class section on his planes, they went out of business. It wasn't part of their culture, right? I mean, Spirit Airlines is not known as a premium product airline. Oh, does anybody remember the premium product airline called MGM Grand Air? The all first class airline that was launched many, many years ago, about 30 years ago to be exact, actually longer than 30 years ago. I remember flying them in 1990. All first class, they had cabins and beds and everything like that. Well, guess what? When they introduced a coach section on that plane, they failed. It was not in their culture. So we'll be watching that very, very carefully. The Boeing story is not over. We have a lot of things to talk about that. Last time we talked about the NTSB hearings resulting from the accident where the door panel blew off earlier this year on January on that Alaska Airlines flight. What came out of those hearings was disturbing to say the least, because it dealt with the safety culture of Boeing. It dealt with the relationship that Boeing had with the FAA, equally, if not even more disturbing. And it's not stopping there. We're talking about not just the 737s now, we're talking about the 787s and the 777 Model X, that's the new model plane, that's now been grounded because of structural cracks that have appeared where they shouldn't be. Once again, going back to the design, manufacturing, and inspection process. And while we're at it, let's not forget Boeing's attempt at the space program. The Starliner, remember those astronauts that went up, they're supposed to be up there for 8 days? They may be up there for 8 months. They haven't figured out a way to get them down. Not good planning. And in fact, Boeing just lost the contract to bring them down. They're sending somebody else's rocket up there to get them. So we'll be watching that space carefully. One programming note for those of you who listen to our radio show, Eye on Travel, every weekend. Tomorrow's show will feature Boeing 737 Captain Dennis Tager, who was at those NTSB hearings, who will be talking to me about what his take is from what came out of those hearings. Pretty interesting stuff. So I hope you get a chance to tune in. That's on from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. It also streams live. You can go to our website, petergreenberg.com, and link into the show as well at about 10:05 a.m. Eastern time. All right. Speaking of the FAA, in the midst of all this other craziness about them slow walking much needed safety improvements over a period of decades, Here's one that's going to make you laugh. It's truly absurd. Do you know there's a U.S. law, an FAA regulation, that requires that any plane flying today has to have a no smoking sign that can be turned off by the crew? Are you kidding me? Delta Airlines banned smoking back in 1994. Who needs a no smoking sign? Who needs it? I don't need it. You don't need it. It's all no smoking. But because that rule is still on the books, the FAA has been punishing airlines for flying new planes that don't have the smoking sign at all, or one that can't be turned off by the crew. Why should they have to turn it off? It's all no smoking. So the FAA is finally fixing that after 30 years. Gives you an idea of how much confidence I have in a federal regulatory agency that can't even figure out the no smoking sign, let alone inspection process on the Boeing 737, much more crucial. Crazy, but I thought I'd mention that. All right. Can you imagine that? Oh, speaking of baggage, I have a very funny picture to show you. You can't make this up. It's qualified for one of my great 2024 travel awards. It happened just the other day. You see when you go to some airports, especially in the Caribbean or in Latin America or in Asia, where they offer to shrink wrap your bags, wrap them in plastic before they check you in. Some idiot thought he could check himself in as a bag. Look at this. I'm not kidding. Look at that. Now, do you notice that nobody's telling him no? Obviously, he did not get on the plane, but he actually tried to do that. Wow. By the way, he was also overweight, literally. All right. I just had to share that picture with you because you can't make that stuff up. Speaking of not making that stuff up, I reported last week that the government of North Korea is now reopening some of their tourist cities. These are showplace cities in which there might as well be a backlot in Hollywood. That doesn't reflect in any way, shape, or form how North Koreans live, but they're opening them up for tourists to come and see. Actually, they're reopening them up. They used to be open for a while before they closed them. But at the same time, North Korea now has banned, fasten your seatbelts, karaoke. So if you're going to go visit those showpiece cities, right, try not to sing. Okay? Hold your favorite Temptation songs for when you get back across the border. I just thought I'd mention that. Before we get to your questions, one little housekeeping note. Guess what's premiering next week? After about September 9th, I believe. It's our 1 hour special in our continuing Hidden series. This one is America's Hidden Coast, Mississippi. Here's a little preview where we went to an unbelievable place on the Chitlin Trail that's been around for so many years and has been responsible for so many of the greatest artists of our time performing in a location that few people know about it. It's called the 100-Man Hall.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 100-Man Hall.
Originally, this classic wood-built hall was used just for local performers until it became part of something called the Chitlin Circuit, the legendary touring route for black performers during segregation, which brought everyone from B.B. King to Etta James here to play at the hall.
90% of the white people who live in Bay St. Louis didn't even know it existed. So you would have legends like James Brown and Ray Charles playing this juke joint, and yet none of the people who lived around here even knew that that greatness was happening.
And that great music continues today. Tonight, it's Take Me to Church Night, celebrating the 100-year history of two local churches. Just a little sampler of what's going to be on our America's Hidden Coast, Mississippi special, premiering next month. That's just in a couple of days on PBS, and then later on Amazon and Apple TV+. I mentioned airfares coming down, but I don't think Qantas was prepared for what happened last week when there was a typo in their ad, and they were selling first-class seats at an amazing discount, like 80% off. Now, a lot of people figured out the mistake and booked those tickets. Southwest tried to then cancel those tickets and just refund those people their money. But the overwhelming public response was so negative for that, Southwest did it about face and honored those tickets. But there's another reason probably why they did it, because there's something else they got caught doing about a year ago. Qantas was actually selling tickets online for flights that did not exist, and then refusing to give people refunds, maybe offering them just a credit instead. What a terribly illegitimate way to raise revenue. And they got caught. And in fact, when they got caught, their CEO lost his job over it. So for them to then try to go back on a mistaken ticket price didn't look good. So those lucky people who were figuring out the mistake and the typo and saving thousands of dollars in the process now get a chance to fly the airline that was selling tickets that didn't exist about a year and a half ago. So there you have that one. Just thought I'd mention that. Okay, let's go and say hello to some people here. We got Craig Sullivan who's saying, can't wait to see the special. Craig, thank you for that. We're going to scroll down here as soon as I can figure out how to do this. Here we go. All right, Harriet and Jim, of course, saying hi. In Cape Charles, in the Chesapeake Bay. Priya saying hello from Chicago. Thank you so much. Sid saying, Sawadee Ka, hello from Thailand. We'll be there later this year. Michelle saying hi from New York. Tayo is saying hello from Maryland. Robin saying happy Friday, Labor Day weekend from Williamsburg. Matthew saying, is there a comprehensive listing of airlines from best to worst? My preferred airline does not fly to a destination that I plan to visit. Well, let's get down to a definition, Matthew, of what best to worst means. Are you talking about service, food, on-time performance, safety? So there's so many different parameters here. I need you to be more specific. Sue is saying hi from Bellingham, Washington. When should I get an airfare from Seattle to Aruba? In February. February 14th, she says. February 14th, the most overrated holiday of the year. A conspiracy of chocolate, rose, and champagne manufacturers. And overpriced hotel rooms and overpriced restaurants. If you truly love somebody, do not take them to dinner on February 14th. Take them to dinner on February 7th or February 21st and enjoy it. But as far as your flight on February 14th, that tends to be high season down in Aruba. And therefore, take a look at the airfares now, and because they're only going to go up between now and then, okay? Melanie saying hi from Miami, still thankfully hurricane-free, but keeping an eye on the Atlantic. Glad I'm not traveling this weekend. I'm right there with you, Melanie. Remember, the NOAA is still forecasting a higher than normal hurricane season this year. Difficult to predict the earthquake season. Although I will tell you right where we are right now, all of these islands are volcanic here in the Galapagos. They had an amazing eruption here back in March, which was actually captured on film. We're going to be showing it on our show. We were there just yesterday walking on relatively new lava. So we'll share that with you later. But as far as hurricanes are concerned, we're not out of the woods yet. Hurricane season started early this year. My guess it's going to go later, thanks to global warming and rising water temperatures. So fingers crossed for you in Miami. Not to mention the folks on the East Coast all the way up and down. Michelle, how early should I get to LaGuardia on Labor Day? What time is your flight, Michelle? That's the key. All right, let me know. Okay, here's another question from another Michelle. Says, what was the phrase you recently said on how to get a hotel room at the cheapest rate over the phone and or a room that is not perfect? Okay. Anytime a hotel tells you that there are no rooms available, and I'm giving you a scenario in which you get to the hotel and they tell you they're sold out, there's not a single room available, you can always say, and if you get an understanding front desk clerk, you'll get it, say, I'll take an out-of-order room. That's a room where the lampshade might have a tear in it, or the sink may have a crack, or the mirror might not be hung well. All you want is a bed and a bathroom that works, and you know what? That's revenue the hotel would otherwise not get. And in many cases, you're going to get that out-of-order room. Now, my other favorite line, which I'll repeat now because I like it so much, is let's say I get to a hotel and they tell me, absolutely, there are no rooms available. They are totally sold out. Not a single room can be had. I always ask them this question. And I always get them to laugh, but then they realize I got them. Here's the question. If the president of the United States were coming right now, would you have a room for him or her? And they'd say, well, of course. And your answer is, I just called the White House. President's not coming. I'll take that room. Now what are they going to do? Just thought I'd mention that. All right, let's keep going. Gail says, hi from Pennsylvania. Nice to see you back online here, Gail. Lorena's saying hello from the west side of Michigan near Holland. Lena's saying greetings from Orange, California, getting ready for our international festival this weekend. Camilla always says hi from Tucson. Nice to see you there. You sound like you just sat down and interviewed Sven. No, Sven's not on this ship. Sven, you talk about Sven Lindblad. Sven is on his own ships, National Geographic ships, of course, with Lindblad Expeditions. Sven, one of the legendary explorers in the world, good friend of ours. As a matter of fact, he was just on our radio show 2 weeks ago. And his ships are down in this region as well, playing by the same rules, by the way. Okay, what is the name of the hotel where you are at and the room you are currently in? Is that your hotel room? The name of the hotel where I am at is the Silversea Silver Origin. It's a ship, part of the Silversea fleet, a specially designed, tailor-built ship just for these waters. And I'm actually in the observation lounge looking out over Santa Cruz Island. So this is not my hotel room. Too big for my hotel room. All right. Colleen says, we will be traveling to Gothenburg next spring for a college reunion. What do I need to know about applying for ETIAS travel visas if I persuade our group to meet in Scotland instead? Could we then avoid the whole visa issue? Well, look, do yourself a favor. ETIAS, or ETIAS, which is an electronic visa, which has just been instituted by the European Union. They tried to do it last year, didn't work. They tried to do it the year before, it didn't work. They even tried to do it this year, but they thought maybe not a good idea with the Olympics in France. But now they're saying they're going to institute it next year. It's going to run you anywhere between $7 and $9. You just apply for it online. You need to print it out. If you get to your departure gate and you don't have it, you're not getting on the plane. It's a good idea just to have one. And I'll give you the big if. If they institute it again, it's the can they keep kicking down the road, like positive ID they've been doing in the United States since 2015, and it still hasn't taken hold yet. So that for $7 to $9, just get one. You don't have to get one when you get there. You can do it online before you ever leave, and you have to do it before you leave, or you can't show that document to get on the plane. All right. Patrick's saying hello from New York. Okay. Lorena says, I got tired of looking at international flights into Nairobi. I just booked it. It was reasonable. What I don't like, since it's booked Delta all the way through, they don't give you miles for the KLM segments. They don't give you miles for the KLM segments. It's a Delta flight. They're all part of the Sky team. That makes absolutely no sense. Please let me know what fare basis you bought. Did you buy basic economy to Nairobi? I hope not. Remember what I always say. Friends don't let friends fly basic economy. Let me know. Okay. Craig's saying hi from Newport Beach. Joyce saying, going to Dubai, need to know if I need to rent a scooter for a disabled person. Is it best to find out from the hotel where to rent one or from an agency? No. You call your hotel concierge in Dubai. The concierges there are great, and they have access to all that information and can set you up. Okay? That's a phone call you need to make. Melanie says, I used to work for an aircraft parts company, and those no smoking signs were not cheap. Nothing's cheap. Do you know there's still planes flying around today that have ashtrays at the seats? Why? Okay. Jeff says, my mistake. Viking just offered a Macau day excursion when we stay over in Hong Kong. Do you recommend? I do. Take the hydrofoil over there. Just don't go to the casinos. There's no reason to go to the casinos. But you want to go to the old part of Macau, the old Portuguese colony. There are still great remnants there and some really great restaurants as well. So check that out. It is worth the day trip. Okay. Hi from Gilroy, California. Can anybody say garlic? Going to Santiago de Compostela into Madrid in June of 2025, and then to Menorca, then back to Madrid, and back to SFO. Any airlines do you recommend? Well, it sounds like we're always you're going to be doing Iberia. That's about all you can do. I mean, look, if you want it, you can. Remember, Iberia is part of one world, so you can certainly fly to Madeira. You can certainly fly to Madrid on American, and then continue on Iberia. It's all part of the one world deal. So that's what I would do. All right. Tayo says, do we think we'll be able to find flight and hotel deals after Labor Day weekend? I just told you, the airfares are about to plummet as of the 5th. The airlines are getting ready for a bad quarter. Demand has evaporated, right? On some of these planes, you can go bowling. All right. Okay. Jim and Harry want us to know, what are my thoughts on Pete Buttigieg? Do you think he has done a good job? Relative to other Department of Transportation secretaries, he's done a great job. Has he done a great job just looking at it and what needs to be done? He's done a good job. There's so much more to be done. May I remind everybody, it was back in December of 2022 when Southwest Airlines had that meltdown, that when Buttigieg went on the air, his response was, all right, we're going to create a delineated, detailed airline passenger bill of rights. So it spells out with pretty severe financial consequences what happens if the airlines violate those rights, what their responsibilities are, as well as what our responsibilities are. That was December of 2022, and we're still waiting. Come on, Pete. It's an election year. Do something for us. It's time to get that Bill of Rights out. Okay. Okay. Hi from Tucson. New universal baggage restrictions going into effect at EU airports. I think all airlines will require 100 milliliter or less liquids. Okay. Here's the big problem, and nobody's been able to give me an answer. The technology exists with the new CT scanner machines to avoid the old liquid rule. Don't need to do it, right? They're already in place at London City Airport. They tried it. It works. You can bring your lotions, your potions, your water, anything you want, because it can detect the difference between a Diet Coke and Semtex. That's good. They installed the machines. They were supposed to get them up and running at all UK airports by June of this year. That's what, 2 months ago. They didn't do it. And they've now canceled it, saying they're not ready to do it yet. Are the CT scanner machines available for implementation in the US? Of course they are. Have they been budgeted for it yet? Who knows? Are they installing them anytime soon? Probably not. In fact, the TSA is saying we may not see them until 2030. Why? The technology works. What is the problem? So the answer to your question is, it's not a universal baggage restriction going into effect. They're going back to the future here and reinstating the liquid rule. Not good and totally avoidable. Okay, Margie says, I'll be in Thailand in late November, then to Laos and Vietnam. Maybe I'll run into you in Thailand. Maybe you will. By the way, it's the best time of the year to go, between November and January in that part of the world. All right. Here we go. Oh, good. I'm getting some agreement on Valentine's Day being the most overrated holiday of the year. Okay. I'd love to know your insider source about a possible airfare war. I'm a travel agency owner, and I trust your investigative research. Here's my investigative research. Go online right now and price out tickets starting September 5th. You're going to start to see them. They're all down right now. Last week, they were down 2% over last year. This week, they're down about 10% over last year. Next week, they could go down as much as 20% over last year. In selected markets, even more. The airlines are not filling their seats between now and the end of the year, with the possible exception of the Thanksgiving holiday. So that should tell you everything you need to know about what's about to happen. Okay? By the way, what that also means is frequent flyer availability in terms of award seats is going to start increasing too. Now, the redemption levels, you're on your own. I saw one the other day, ridiculous, on a Delta Airlines flight to Europe, in which there wasn't a single seat in first class booked. Are you listening? Every seat empty. Delta still wanted, for a one-way ticket on first class, a mileage redemption of 425,000 miles. I'll post it next week. You'll see it for yourself. That is absurd. That's skyway robbery, right? And basically, it leads me to the conclusion that they're making promises about their frequent flyer programs they have no intention of keeping. And with nobody minding the store, right? It's the wild, wild west in the frequent flyer programs with no sheriff. They can up those redemption levels anywhere they want. And what are we going to do about it right now? What's our recourse? That's the problem. 425,000 miles for a one-way ticket? Does that mean it's 850,000 miles for a round-trip ticket? You know, if 54% of all mileage earned is earned on the ground with stuff you spend on credit cards, that means if you were stupid enough to redeem 850,000 miles for one round-trip ticket to Europe on Delta, that means you would have spent $670,000 to get that quote-unquote free ticket. For $670,000, you could charter 5 G5s and take 80 of your friends to Europe. So tell me the value of a frequent flyer mile now. That's a rhetorical question. You already know the answer. Let's keep going. All right, here we go. Tomas says, as a seasoned traveler, what is your single biggest main complaint? I can tell you right now. Airlines that knowingly publish schedules they have no intention of keeping and know when they publish them, they physically can't keep them. How many of you go online to make your reservations on connecting flights and see a legal 33-minute connect time? What acid are they dropping at airline scheduling offices? You can't even get off the plane in 33 minutes. This is nuts. And it compounds the problem. They're literally publishing a schedule they know they cannot maintain. There should be penalties for that. Okay. Scott's saying happy Labor Day weekend, right back at you. Okay. Here we go. Lorena says, I bought economy to Nairobi. They give me miles all the way for the purchase price, but only fly miles on the Delta segments, not the KLM segments. All right, so basically, you purchased it with cash and miles. Is that what you're saying? That explains why KLM can then say, we're not going to give you mileage on a ticket that was purchased with mileage. Okay. Arwa, my good friend Bruce Siegel's online, probably wearing a pink shirt for reasons only he knows. He says, here's a tip. My TSA expired without me knowing, and Clear was able to get my TSA back on their screen. Took them 2 minutes and got confirmation within 2 days. Way to go, Bruce. By the way, I'm a big fan of Clear. I think they have some staffing issues these days. They need to get more people out there to process you. But in concept, love Clear, use it every chance I get. Okay, Evelyn's saying, help. Carnival Cruise heading back home. There's a detour to the Bahamas to drop off a passenger that was sick, resulting in my delay to the airport, missed my flight home, had to reschedule my flight. Submitted receipts to Carnival. They declined reimbursing you. Submitted receipts to my insurance. The insurance took out for the cruise, and they declined to reimburse me as well. Wait a second. You bought something called, from the insurance company, trip cancellation and interruption insurance. Yes? Well, your trip got interrupted, and you missed your flight. Did it also cover your flight or just the cruise? Find that out. But Carnival will try to stand behind a force majeure clause in their contract saying they reserve the right to substitute ports in the event of an emergency, weather or medical. This was medical. Now, did you buy your tickets from Carnival for the airline? Was it an Air Sea package, or did you buy your airline tickets separately? If you bought your airline tickets separately, did you buy the medical, the travel interruption and cancellation insurance for those tickets separately? That's the key. Let me know. Okay. Going to Madrid in June of 2025. When should I book? When in June? If it's before the 15th, wait. If it's after the 15th, you might want to book them now. Okay, Joyce says, do I need to rent a scooter for a handicapped person from the hotel in Dubai? I think we just talked about that. Check with the concierge there. They will get you set up. Okay. Rochelle says, pricing for premium economy or business to Europe is 20 to 30% less compared to the same time this year for next year. Well, there you go. My point exactly. Let's keep going here. Hold on a second. Pamela's saying, I'm taking a Trans-Pacific cruise, Seattle to Tokyo. Now, that would be a cruise I love. So many great days at sea. Any ideas on the type of seas I may encounter? Yes. You didn't tell me when you're going. Look, the Northern Pacific can get a little rough depending on the time of year. Let me know. Colleen says, will we need a new ETIAS travel visa for each country I visit or just one visit per trip? Believe it or not, the European Union hasn't told us that yet. I'm going to find that out. We'll get that answer for you next week. Lorena, you're just coming back to me with the Delta and the KLM problem with mileage. It doesn't make any sense. Email me, peter@petergreenberg.com, and give me the specifics, and we'll get into it for you, okay? Something's not making sense about why KLM will not give you mileage. Okay, let me zoom back here a second. Okay, Margie says there were once legal connecting times at all airports, both for domestic and international travel. What happened to those legal connection times? You know what? The airlines are playing fast and loose with their schedules. Now, there are certain sort of rules that are still in place, but they're still not making sense. For example, what's the legal minimum connect time if you're going through London Heathrow to connect to another flight? It's 3 hours. But wait a minute. What's the minimum legal connect time for your bags at Heathrow? It's 4 hours. Hello? Then why shouldn't it be 4 hours for you and your bags? Nothing's making sense. You asked for my major complaint about airlines? You just heard it. Schedule. Okay. Here we go. Okay. A couple of other things before we sign off. Remember, it's coming up in November. To benefit the University of Wisconsin Alumni Association, I'm taking an amazing cruise with Go Hagen Travel, starting in Muscat in Oman and heading down the Arabian Gulf all the way to the UAE, to Dubai. There's the map right there. It's an amazing cruise. We've got amazing speakers. Oh, and by the way, in a self-serving comment, I'm one of them. I hope you'll get a chance to join us. It benefits a great cause, but it's an amazing part of the world. And for those of you who think, because of what's going on in Gaza, this is a conflicted area, you're wrong. Get a map. We're hundreds and hundreds of miles away, and this is an amazing opportunity. You're never going to see something like this. You'll be swimming with dolphins in the Arabian Gulf. I've done it off the coast of Oman. And, of course, going down through the United Arab Emirates into Emirates you don't know about. You know about Dubai, but what about Sharjah and Fujairah and Ras Al Khaimah? I mean, check it out. Go to gohagen.com. You'll see those on our screen where you can get in touch with them to see the itinerary. And again, I'm happy to do it because I'm a proud Badger, having gone to the University of Wisconsin, and happy to speak to benefit the University of Wisconsin Alumni Association. So check it out. I hope you get a chance to join us. Again, tomorrow, our radio show starting at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be talking about Boeing and with Dennis Tager, an American Airlines 737 pilot, a veteran pilot who proudly flies the 737 MAX, but not without questioning certain things with the FAA and with Boeing, and even with the airline operators themselves. I think it's a conversation you need to hear. Then it's time for the photo of the week. Let's do that. Anybody want to tell me where this is? Dudley took it, and he took it last month in Spain. That's Toledo on a beautiful cloudless day, almost cloudless day. Great shot. Of course, waiting for the right light. And if you want to get a shot that you think is qualifying for the photo of the week, you know exactly what to do. Just email us to photocontest@petergreenberg.com. And if we agree with you, you get to hang up there right with Dudley. Some other questions that you guys pre-sent in. Okay. Michelle says, have I ever had any unusually rough experiences at Rome's Fiumicino Airport? I have never had any issues going through security check until I encountered FCO's team. The aggressiveness and rudeness were off the chart. I have to tell you, I've never had a problem there, but everybody is subject to a bad day. Okay. Wes says, Peter, what's your favorite cruise line? That's asking me like, what's my favorite airline? I can't answer that question. I can do it by route. If you give me a route for an airline, a route for a country or a destination, I can tell you my airline of choice. There's no such thing as my favorite airline, because let's say if my favorite airline was Airline X, but their flight to Cleveland was late 96% of the time and I'm on that flight, they're no longer my favorite airline. Again, it's done by route, by airline, and again, by cruise line. Okay, Eric says, I'm traveling to South Korea for the first time. Any advice? Well, yeah, I got lots of advice for that, but you haven't told me when you're going and where in the country you're going. I'm a huge fan of Gwangju. I'm a huge fan, obviously, of Seoul, but then I want to go down to Busan as well. And the Itaewon is well worth it. Their museum in Seoul is unbelievable. Seriously, the food stalls in the night markets are amazing, amazing. And if you want to see some really great food, you go pick out what you want and they cook it right in front of you. It's a great experience. But the history there is amazing. And of course, you get to go to the DMZ as well and get as close to North Korea as you can without going over the line. All right. But let me know when you're going to go and how much time you're going to be spending. Jeremy says, I'm going to the Philippines this fall. I'm wondering the best mode of transportation to get around while out there. Once again, the Philippines is more than 8,000 islands. Which islands are you going to other than the main one in Manila, right? Are you going up north? Are you going down south to Palawan and Legazpi? Are you going to Mindanao? Are you going, which will be Zamboanga? Are you going way out to Sabah? Are you going to Corregidor, Cebu, Davao? I need more information, okay? Carla says, is Prague as magical in the winter as people say? It is. Imagine a city that was not bombed in World War II. It's remarkably well preserved. It's a great walking city. You got to go. Just dress warmly. You'll love it. Okay. Jerry says, I sprained my ankle 8 months ago. It's healed pretty well, but on occasion it acts up as mildly painful when I walk. I'm leaving on a 2-week trip to Costa Rica. I bought a collapsible cane to have on hand just in case. I was going to pack it in my suitcase, but it just occurred to me a collapsed aluminum cane in the check bag might trigger an alert. It won't. If they open it up, they'll know exactly what it is. You're not the only person with one of those canes. Do not worry. All right? Unless you need the cane to get on the plane or to walk through airports. Remember, airport walking is not a lot of fun. You know which airport's got the worst walks? DFW, 2.5 miles, right? So depending on what you need, but if you want to pack it in your bag, it won't be a problem. Okay. All right. Teresa says, I'm going to Turkey this fall and will be in Istanbul. Would like to avoid touristy spots for food. Where do you want to go? I'll tell you where you go. Go down to the ferry terminal and take a ferry out to the Princess Islands. There are a number of them out there. You're going to be the only person there who's not a local, and great places to eat out there, many of them right on the water. Okay, and the ferry system in Turkey absolutely works. I mean, it's the best. Also, if you want to go near the Peninsula Hotel, the new Peninsula Hotel, walking distance from there is the original bakery for Simmet. Who knows Simmet bread? I love Simmet bread. It opens at 5 in the morning. Get there at 5:30. Seriously, just walk over. Get there at 5:30. It comes hot out of the oven. You buy 5 of them at a time, and then take them on the ferry with you. Why? Because locals know that you go to the top deck, take one of those pieces of Simmet, break it off, and you feed the birds all the way over. It's fun. But anyway, take the ferry to the Princess Islands. You will not be disappointed. All right, let me very quickly scroll down here to see if I haven't missed anybody. I don't think I have. All right. So, most importantly, listen to our radio show tomorrow, Eye on Travel. Watch for our special on the Galapagos that'll be coming out later this year that we're shooting right now. Of course, America's Hidden Coast, Mississippi, premieres in about 9 days on PBS, so check your local listings. And I also want to give a big thanks to the staff and crew here on the Silver Origin. They've been amazing because they're all naturalists. And what's the most amazing about this ship? The entire crew, captain, officers, staff, naturalists, expedition leaders are all from Ecuador. Talk about local knowledge being key. They've got it. To our banda, to Captain Chacon, Gabriela Naranjo, who we were with yesterday, Arturo Azureta, who's the National Park Director, where we were watching them basically preserve all the population of the tortoises. Unbelievable stuff. I mean, Charles Darwin would be proud. And of course, Paulina, who's the head of the expedition leaders here on the ship. Thank you all, everybody, for helping us out on our shoot. Thank you all for watching. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Try not to get stuck in traffic. And remember, airlines are still publishing schedules they have no intention of keeping. So if you want to take the earliest flight out in the day, do what I do. Pick a flight that's on an airline not based at your airport. Why? It means the plane that you need to be on came in the night before with that crew, and you'll get a chance to get out. Either way, travel safely. Get ready for a buyer's market starting next week. Thanks to Anthony for helping us out here on the ship, as always, and we'll see you next week, everybody.